thank you for everyone that's taken the time to join us today. We've got a good one for you. We're joined by Elka Popova from Frost Sullivan. Frost Sullivan is a large research consultancy advisory organization that knows the channel really well, knows the world really well, and provides a lot of top tier advice for businesses across the globe. And Elka is their vice president of research and runs the whole research arm. So we are thrilled and excited and honored to have her and her big brain with us today to share a lot of new insights and intel as it applies to the channel, and really specifically extending to customers, UCaaS and CCaaS, and just overall engagement. So just a quick housekeeping logistical thing. There's a little emoji section up at the top of your screen. See something you like, go ahead and send a positive emoji. It's great to see. Thank you. A couple early ones. If you have questions throughout the presentation, there's a little Q&A box up in the top middle of your screen. So if you have any questions, please pop them in there, and we will save time at the end to answer those. And then a final little button you'll see at the top of your screen is a phone. If you run into any audio issues, just click there and it'll give you a couple options. So without further ado, hand it over to Elka.
Hi, everybody. Mark, thank you for introducing me. Intermedia, thank you for having me on this webinar. I have to tell you that very flattered and honored that you are joining us for this webinar, taking precious time off your day to come and hear what we have to say about the future of work, about cloud services adoption, and how you can succeed by helping your customers. It's been a crazy year, and unlike motivational speakers or psychologists, I'm not going to tell you to just take a deep breath and let yourself move with the flow. I do think that every cloud has a silver lining. We just have to find the opportunities, and there are opportunities in this space that you can capitalize on, and I'm going to talk about those. In just a moment, I'm going to turn off my video to feeling a little bit of a delay to hopefully the connection will improve as I turn it off. But before then, I just want to move on to the slide that introduces me and say just a couple of sentences. I manage the Connected Work research team at Frost & Sullivan. On this team, we cover unified communications and collaboration services, systems, endpoints, and other variables within the stack. I personally specialize in hosted voice and unified communications as a service, UCaaS. So I'm here to talk to you primarily about UCaaS. With this, let me move on to my agenda. Turning off my camera, but I'm here, I'm real, and you can ask questions. We prefer to keep them until the end just so I don't get distracted. But I will also be available to answer questions via email or phone if you want to follow up after this discussion. So let's move on. This is my agenda, and it looks pretty detailed, but mostly I'm going to start by talking about some of the changes we're seeing in the marketplace, some of the key trends that have been shaping the industry in the past few years. And I'm going to talk about how the pandemic has exacerbated some of the challenges, boosted some of the positive trends, and otherwise how the workplace and the future of work are changing. We talk about the future of work, but I forgot to mention that, in my opinion, that starts today. The future of work is, and the seeds of that change are being planted today. So it's important to be first to market with new solutions, with the right strategies to capture opportunities and avoid different pitfalls. I'm going to talk a lot about the need for a connected workforce, a connected post-pandemic organization. And to enable that kind of a collaborative workplace environment, a connected workplace, you need to have the right tools. I'm going to talk about video specifically because it's come to the spotlight in a truly, amazing way during the quarantines. It was gaining traction before, but now it's really become mainstream. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and share some data from Frost and Sullivan surveys, some of which is going to reveal the IT challenges that customers are facing, but also the benefits that they see in cloud services and how these and how cloud solutions can address the challenges. I'll share some data on how businesses are moving different workloads to the cloud. And then I'll talk a little bit about how to help customers approach their cloud migration in a more holistic fashion, how to tailor their digital transformation strategies for their specific environments, specific goals, and specific pain points. I'll talk about how partners can insert themselves in this process of digital transformation and provide value that the rest of the market participants cannot. And I'll wrap up with a few strategic takeaways and recommendations. Now let's move on. So I like to look at the marketplace in a global context. Even if many of our businesses operate domestically, inevitably we're exposed to global trends. And we're exposed to a lot of different changes that are taking place in 3 different constituents that affect our businesses and our customers' businesses. First of all, we're all dealing with customers that are increasingly tech savvy and well informed. They are very selective about the brands that they work with. And this is placing pressures on your customers about how they operate internally and to deliver customer value that's differentiated, unique, and tailored for these ever-changing needs of your customer base, of their customer base. With COVID, we saw new pressures on customers and their customers. They had to change their business models. They had to move to more digital ways of engaging with their customers. And to do so, they need technologies. And communications and collaboration technologies are the lifeblood of your customers' organizations, and they're mission critical for them as they seek to engage with their own customers. But also your customers' businesses are becoming increasingly virtual. They're either sourcing talent internationally or using international supply chains or working with partners internationally or competing with others who have global resources and are therefore, presenting competitive pressures. So once again, this is one of the factors for businesses to look to leverage technologies to be more competitive. The workforce within customer organizations is changing, and we like to talk a lot about millennials and Generation Z, and truly they're becoming a bigger and bigger proportion of the workforce. And with that come new requirements and new preferences for technology tools. They like their mobile devices, they like their personalized apps, they use video a lot more freely and comfortably than older generations. But I think we should also acknowledge that the older generations of workers are evolving as well. I'm Generation X, and I've become a lot more comfortable with, let's say, video and texting and messaging than I used to be 10 years ago. So with that, we are placing new new requirements and have new expectations for our employers. So your customers are is experiencing pressures from their employees to provide modern tools that make them more productive. So overall, digital technologies are driving change. COVID and the rise in remote work and the changes that it compelled businesses to make in their business models, in how they operate and how they deal with customers, is only driving an even more dramatic shift in technology adoption and usage. I want to summarize very briefly how specifically the workforce is driving change. Now, increasingly, especially younger generations of workers are looking for work-life balance. They want the flexibility to work from anywhere, anytime. And with COVID, this became simply mandatory. It wasn't even a choice. So they need the tools to be productive, to be connected, but with the greater exposure that they get to online tools and social tools and so on, they're also increasingly acknowledging that they need the safety and privacy and compliance that will protect them and protect their organization. So we're seeing here slightly conflicting requirements when it comes to how we serve these businesses. There are plug-and-play tools out there that do not provide the safety and security, but provide the collaborative element. And yet there are others that combine all these capabilities to provide all the value, the best value for customer organizations and their users. There will be increasing demand for personalization and for visual text-based communications and so on. So, like I said earlier, this is all placing pressure on us to change and transform. So COVID, we're all tired of hearing this word, and yet it's the reality out there. And we have to recognize both the challenges and the opportunities that it has created. Obviously, it's having a profound impact on our personal and business lives. It's accelerated the rise of remote work among office workers and the ones that could move to home working. But it's also created new use cases. It's driven greater demand for some existing use cases that, however, were very siloed, and now they've become more mainstream. I'm going to talk later about education and healthcare specifically, but they represent two very kind of unique cases within our customer organizations where demand for communications and collaboration technologies is driven by entirely new demands. As you know, all the different verticals have been impacted in different ways. Some have seen a slowdown in demand for, some have increased, some have seen unprecedented increase. And that is all can be addressed by different technologies and tools with the right approach. The good news is that the technology developers and service providers have stepped up to the challenge. We've seen a lot of offers by the service providers for free trials or free services for a certain period of time, special offers for healthcare, education, and nonprofit organizations. With the quarantines now ending, though, we're going into a new phase. We're already in that post-pandemic environment, and it's going to extend over a period of months and years. It's going to take time. It's probably we're going to see this ever-shifting new normal. It's going to be always the next normal, never a new normal that we can strictly identify, pinpoint its characteristics and demands and adapt to it permanently. We're going to have to keep adapting. But what we're going to see in customer organizations is a lot of changing workplace logistics, new workspace protocols, sanitization policies and rules. And that's going to force customer organizations to look for advanced technologies that help them to better serve a hybrid workforce. That's going to include some remote workers and some on-site workers. And that's going to help them, that will help them strategize and move from some of the stopgap solutions that they deployed in a panic mode during the pandemic, and turn to more right-sized, right-fitted solutions that are going to provide the security, compliance, and management capabilities that can ensure the performance that they need for the long term. So what are we going to see now in this post-pandemic environment? We're going to see remote work remain at maybe settle on a level that's somewhere between pre-COVID and during COVID levels. We'll probably settle at about 25-30% of office workers working from home on a somewhat permanent basis. This is an estimate. We don't know where we're going to settle, but I think we're going to see much higher levels than we used to see in the past. So all these workers are going to need collaboration tools. They're going to need connectivity to their homes. They're going to need, work from home, suitable endpoints, peripherals, webcams and headsets and devices, and the right kind of services to stay productive. Telehealth. Healthcare organizations have not been at the forefront of digital transformation. I mean, they've done certain things well and other things they haven't quite done so well. But now I think there are specific use cases that can be addressed with advanced technologies, and you have to explore possibilities and improve patient care at the same time. Remote video consultations, remote patient monitoring, COVID tracing, these are all use cases that can be handled either with prepackaged standalone video conferencing solutions, UCaaS, or with APIs and the respective integration you can do with their systems to activate mass notifications, alerts, and so on. Remote learning. I mean, there was a lot of reluctance in this vertical. I mean, teachers were not ready to learn about new tools. They were not ready to switch to this new learning mode. Their curriculums were not adapted to remote learning. So there will be a lot of effort to go back to in-school teaching when things settle and the contagion is somewhat contained. However, I think there will be a permanent need and recognition of the value of remote learning to enhance in-class learning. And for this, there will be a need to integrate with learning management systems, lecture capture solutions, and so on. So I think there will be a long-term opportunity in this vertical. Let's move on and talk a little bit more broadly. Oops, sorry, I pressed twice. About how I see the modern organization post-COVID, or whatever you want to call it. I think regardless of the vertical industry, organizations are going to need to enable a collaborative environment. They will need to align the different stakeholders within the organization, from the knowledge workers, whether they're in the office or working remotely or mobile somewhere at the airport or in the coffee shop, to the customer care, contact center agents, to the task workers, the back office, finance, HR, to all the way to the frontliners. Because the truth of the matter is, an organization is only as competitive as they can deliver unique and compelling customer. But to enable a smooth customer journey, all the different stakeholders need to be aligned and contributing with their own skill sets to keep the workflows flowing smoothly, to optimize the different processes within the organization so that the organization functions more efficiently and delivers the value that their clients expect to see. So collaboration technologies are the glue, that connective tissue that companies need to function effectively in this increasingly dynamic global economy. And as businesses look to adjust to this, dynamic environment, they're going to be increasingly flatter. They're going to be more distributed, obviously, with all those remote workers. But they're going to need to be more agile. So with this, they're going to need to rely on sales teams. They're going to need to really focus on business continuity to make sure they can withstand not only natural disasters, but also the competitive pressures that I talked about. They'll need to enable cross-functional teamwork. Again, referring to the chart I showed previously, those frontliners are going to need to be talking to the back office people. The hospitality, staff are going to need to talk to the back office, and the doctors and the nurses need to communicate with billing and other workers within the hospitals and the healthcare organizations, and so on and so forth. Every vertical is very different. And teams are going to stay hybrid, move to work to home working permanently. Some are going to stay in the office and some will be in between. A lot of dynamic changes taking place, and technologies need to be the ultimate enabler of the business agility that will enable a competitive advantage. So as we talk about enabling that collaborative, flat and distributed organization and the self-organized agile teams, it's important to recognize that there are certain tools that have proven their value in the past few months beyond what was acknowledged and recognized previously. Video came into the spotlight, and I know we're all experiencing a bit of a video fatigue, and we all have our concerns about how much video, how much we want to be on video and for what purposes. But studies show that remote workers do feel more connected when they can use video whenever appropriate. And during the pandemic, we believe that video quickly rose from the 10% online meetings we were seeing previously to well over 50%. For some of us, maybe for me, because I work with telecom companies who want to showcase their technologies, it's been 100% of the time. And it's tiring, I know that. But we need to acknowledge that it serves its purposes. I'm showing you also some survey data from a survey specifically focused on UCaaS buyers, not the more generic IT and telecom buyer population, but the UCaaS buyers. And pre-COVID, 69% told us they wanted all-inclusive UCaaS bundles so they can pick and choose features for their different users based on job functions, so on. But they also, 43%, identified video calling as the most important feature in UCaaS, and 31% identified video conferencing as the most important feature. So that shows that with COVID, these numbers are most likely much higher, and video is a very important element in UCaaS offerings today. So when you choose your service provider partners, I think you need to make sure that they have robust video conferencing, video meetings capabilities to offer with the cloud PBX. It's also very important to look at what challenges customers are facing. We asked IT, decision makers to select the top 3. So these are not adding up to 100%, but at the top of the list is network reliability, systems integration. Managing multi-vendor solutions is on the same level as a network reliability, and then aligning investments with broader business strategies and priorities. Skills shortages, training, the broader task of just building a cloud strategy, and naturally budgets and return on investment considerations. These are the key challenges that IT staff need to address. This is what they will be thinking about when you go to talk to them about upgrade applications and IT solutions. So the question is, can cloud services, can cloud communications address these challenges? And whether IT decision makers see cloud services as the right solution. The good news is that the perceived benefits of cloud solutions more or less kind of directly address the challenges we saw on the previous slide. As you can see, 80% agree that, or chose app availability and uptime as important or very important benefit of cloud services when they move to cloud. Also, naturally, as they choose to outsource their communication solutions, they acknowledge the value of freeing up IT staff to focus on innovative solutions. Because remember, one of the challenges was aligning IT and telecom investments with broader business priorities. Your customers see cloud solutions also as a way to deliver services and applications faster. They also recognize that cloud services improve business continuity and disaster recovery. They eliminate the hassle of integrating multi-vendor solutions. They reduce costs and so on. So as you can see, there is a very good alignment of perceived cloud benefits and the challenges that IT people are facing. Now, as I like to say, the proof is in the pudding. We can talk a lot about, how cloud services have value and how they can help our customers, but it's only when we look at the data that shows cloud migration, the stage of cloud migration among our customer organizations, that it becomes obvious that businesses are truly doing it. The light blue here shows what percentage of our respondents have already moved part or all of their workloads to the cloud towards the end of last year. And the dark blue shows what percentage will be moving more of these workloads to the cloud in 2020 and 2021. So combined, this is a pretty significant percentage of customer organizations that are already on their cloud migration journey. So we need to kind of pause here and say, okay, this is all good. But then there are so many things that go wrong and so many customers that don't see the return on investment when they move to cloud. And there are lots of things that could go wrong. But I think it's important to start with the key performance indicators that they're looking to improve, and from there set some goals and help them choose the right solutions that are going to help them accomplish these KPIs, performance indicators. What's important to keep in mind is that their ultimate goal is to serve their customers, to deliver value to their customers. So no matter what technology you're selling them, even if it looks like it's just gonna, drive some operational efficiencies for them, it needs to be deployed with a vision of how it's going to enable the customer organization to serve its customers. So the next step, and we're here to talk specifically about communications and collaboration, is to help them select a solution that is collaboration centric. In other words, it goes beyond a cloud PBX replacement. It has meetings and messaging and file collaboration and sync and share, and it's mobile ready. It can be accessed via soft clients or web browsers, because this is what they need for their remote workers. This is what they're going to need for their frequently traveling workers. And this is the only way to align all the different stakeholders, because there will be some frontline workers that never had a desk phone and a phone line associated with their name, but they could be enabled with a solution that can be accessed on a mobile device. And this is going to help, keep them connected with the rest of the organization, because it's time to look at the frontliners as an important part of customer organizations that has never had the communications tools that were always, available to the office worker, the typical, carpeted office workers. The next step is to make sure that we don't create more silos. As we deploy a communication solution within a customer organization, we need to make sure that it's integrated with productivity applications, with vertical applications, horizontal, like function-specific applications like CRM, ERP, and so on. And we can accomplish this with an open platform and flexible APIs. You don't necessarily have to go to a CPaaS provider. You can work with your UCaaS provider if they have the APIs to enable these kinds of integrations. But also you can do some custom work there. You can help the business maybe create notifications, alerts, or other kind of communications solutions that reside within a business app and are triggered by a specific business event, so that they can optimize a process, eliminate a human error, or otherwise integrate communications into the workflow to see an actual impact. I talked about the importance of connecting contact center agents with the knowledge worker base. And I'm going to also emphasize the importance of deploying and integrating contact center and UCaaS solution, so that the different workers within the organization can see each other's presence, can message each other, can create groups so they can collaborate when a customer issue needs to be resolved. And one final step is to make sure that you continually monitor your customer's ability to see the maximum return on investment. To do so, you need to make sure that the UCaaS solutions that you're selling are have the sophisticated analytics tools and are probably leveraging artificial intelligence to provide data that monitors the performance of the solution, but also monitors the benefits that the customer is seeing. So with this, it's important to also recognize where partners fit into the equation. I can assure you that most businesses remain very confused, whether they admit it or not, about what digital transformation means for them, what cloud migration means for them, and how they can achieve their goals with they're constantly bombarded just from different service providers, and they're looking at a myriad solutions that have, on the surface, very similar benefits and very similar capabilities. So you need to step in as the trusted partners with a more objective perspective, them sort through the chaos, sort through the noise. I can assure you that customers do see the value in working with resellers. They do look for that one-stop shop for equipment and services, and they do value unique skill sets of their partners. There are huge gaps in service provider skill sets that the partners can fill. But also, partners have the ear of their customers. They know their most intimate, technology-related pain points. They know the customer environment. You know the customer environment. So you come into the customer, into a customer meeting already with a knowledge of what could serve their purposes best. You have their trust, and you can benefit from this trust to accelerate growth for yourself, because ultimately everybody's in this business to make money, and there are monetization opportunities for partners. Remember, in this chaos, there is a need for a beacon, for someone to come in and show the light at the end of the tunnel. So you can provide the infrastructure as well as the services that businesses need to advance on their digital transformation journey. Many of you can provide the one-stop shop for endpoints, gateways, session border controllers, vertical applications and software, and all these other elements that are a critical part of your customer's digital transformation, in addition to their UCaaS and CCaaS solutions. You need to know what they're looking for when they choose their service provider. So as you come to them with a UCaaS solution, you need to know that they're going to be looking at reliability and security. But recently, what we also saw was an increased focus on open. And I did talk previously about the need for integrating with customer business applications and workflows. So you need to be working with a provider that has the right kind of platform that enables this kind of integration with third-party solutions. Let's wrap it up. One of the key messages that I wanted to convey to you today was that collaboration is paramount to a winning UCaaS solution and critical for your customer organizations today as they see this unprecedented rise in remote work and the need for distancing between doctors and patients, teachers and students, employees from each other, and workers from their customers. So they need the collaboration solutions to, create the connective tissue internally and communicate externally with customers and partners. You need to give them the tools to succeed. But you also must differentiate. There are lots of solutions out there that are not properly integrated. There are a lot of UCaaS offerings that do not come with a CCaaS offering that's part of the same service provider stack, and it doesn't provide the same kind of value. to enable a smoother customer journey, your customers will want to see that integration that will provide user value and customer value. You also need to position yourself as a transformation partner. Your customers are looking for much more than siloed technologies. They're looking for someone that can clearly see where the market is headed, what new technologies are coming to this market, and how they can adapt to all the changes that are taking place around them. So you need to be talking to them about business process transfer, about business continuity, about how you can keep their staff and customers safe. You know, the conversation is now on a new level. It's not about, okay, I can save you money on long distance calls or just, give you a few operational, cost savings. Although those are still critical, I'm not going to lie to you that you're going to be having a lot of tactical conversations. But it's your job to some extent to elevate the conversation and make sure that your customer is looking at the bigger picture. Focus on the business outcomes. That's kind of related to that whole, idea of looking at transformation in a more holistic way. Sit down with the customer, look at their objectives and performance metrics, and figure out what they need to do to implement the right solution and see the maximum benefits. And most of all, I'll wrap up by saying prepare for change. It's a dynamic environment out there. There's a lot of panic, a lot of hesitation, a lot of different concerns. But that is why customers need you more than ever. That is exactly why you need to step in and confidently offer them choices. And with this, I'm going to wrap it up and open up for questions.
All right. Thank you, Elka. Good stuff. As mentioned earlier, I will go through the questions and read them out, and hopefully we can get them answered for you. And I'll jump on webcam as well. Hello. All right. So, and just a reminder, for answering questions, we've got a couple here, but whoever else would like to submit, just up in that top little button right there, you see a Q&A to send those in. We'll be monitoring that. So first one, this one, I'll field this. It's kind of a logistical one. There's just a question if we'd get a copy of this afterward. And yes. So after this webinar, we'll send out a recap with the recording and the slides that you can access. So no issues there. Okay, let's jump into the next one. So Elka, this one's a little bit about vertical related. So it looks like, it sounded like you mentioned healthcare and education as a couple specific industries of focus. Can you talk a little bit more about those and how to get in with those industries, looks like?
That's a very good question. So when we say healthcare, for example, there are a lot of different types of organizations. So if you're going into a hospital, obviously you can go in with the notion of replacing their premises-based system with a cloud solution. And naturally, HIPAA is going to be critical for getting into this verb. But again, there are so many different opportunities there to also deploy video conferencing. There are a lot of also opportunities to integrate with their systems for even on-site patient monitoring and external patient monitoring. If you're talking to a doctor's office, I think it's very important at this point to maybe present them with an opportunity to conduct some video consultations. I know that my father, for example, has to see a cardiologist on a regular basis. And the doctor just called us. And because my father doesn't speak English, translate. But if you're not seeing the patient, how is that? Like, how is that a real consultation? I think you can go into that doctor's or office or clinic, and you can say, okay, let me replace your, voice solution that also includes a video conferencing option, a video telephony option, or maybe you just give them the video conferencing solution on its own. Also, in education, I think we all know that there are a few market participants such as Zoom and Microsoft Teams and Google that have become entrenched with their messaging and meeting solutions. Google Classroom obviously is very pervasive, and there's a Meet option there. But again, many of these organizations are going to be looking for more robust kind of voice capabilities behind these meeting solutions. So if you can step in with UCaaS that's integrated with G Suite or with the Google Classroom or with some of the other solutions, that's another way to go into these verticals. There are many variations, and we kind of have to take this offline because I can't quite summarize all the different opportunities. And there will be some conservative buyers.
For sure, yeah. And just, something that we've been seeing a little bit more is our contact center as a service, and specifically its applicability within healthcare. So, especially at larger organizations where it comes to notifying a whole group of patients about something, that can be sent out, and then, managing internal teams if they're more remote now. So just to kind of echo some of the points that Elka was saying, I've seen some across, the UCaaS and then into the CCaaS as well with these new distributed environments. And again, healthcare in particular, it's the patient. It's getting in front of the patient, making sure they have the right information.
You tickled my memory, Mark, but cloud contact center is seeing a lot of traction in healthcare and government organizations at the moment, and it has a lot to do with how these organizations are dealing with patient outreach, or just processing different citizen kind of applications, employment applications, and so on. There's been incredible demand for flexible, agile cloud contact center to handle the increase in customer interactions.
Yeah, absolutely. And just one other little anecdote there, getting me thinking about stuff too. So the restaurant industry, we've been seeing that one pop up a lot with contact centers specifically. So, a local restaurant, that deploys a cloud contact center that ultimately gets rid of their busy signals. If someone calls in and they would have, had a couple lines going, and now that potential customer receives a busy signal, they'll, hang up and call a different restaurant. But, with a cloud contact center solution type of thing, you can keep all this going, route everything appropriately, and keep these, in this example, a smaller business operating using a technology that maybe they would have never even thought of, or thought, I'm too small for that. But there's, applicability across the board once it's cloud-based, like Elka was talking about earlier, from, any size organization. Cool, good stuff. So speaking of the tools that are included in all this, and new ways of communicating. So first off, this question opens with a statement. Thank you, Elka. Always amazing insights. Smiley face. That's great to see. Do you believe that video conferencing will become a more normal medium channel within contact centers in the future?
That is a very good question. I think it's making inroads, but I'll have to defer to a colleague of mine who focuses a lot more on contact center. I unfortunately cannot speak in terms of any metrics when it comes to contact center. I think from a very, very kind of end user point of view, I would say that what happened in the past 6 months in terms of changing user behaviors, in terms of getting everybody to dramatically increase their comfort level with, we're on a track to see video practically in everything. I mean, once again, there are better use cases and not so good use cases, right? You want to know what the value you're pursuing with seeing video in contact center or any other kind of service. But it does provide that personal touch. It does provide the value of seeing body language, the opportunity to show things, demonstrate products or otherwise kind of enhance the interaction. So I think definitely something to watch.
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting take. I haven't really thought about that before, but yeah, it'd be an interesting one to look into and think about. Because yeah, it would make sense, like kind of like you're saying, it's humanizing everything, right? It's like taking these interactions and putting a face in front of it as well, which we're all seeking for a little more of in our remote virtual reality environments a little bit. Okay. So got a question here. Elka, maybe you can help me with this one. If not, Bill, we might need to reach out to you directly just to get a little bit more context on exactly what you're looking for and how we can help. But the question is around UCaaS and CRM marketing tools. Elka, I'm not sure if you're too familiar with this, but it sounds like it's about like integrating UCaaS with CRM tools. Do you know much about that? And if like what that looks like? I'm not sure. Maybe this stemmed from some of the API integration discussions.
So
Um,
CRM has been one of the kind of third-party applications that most of the most customers have wanted to see integrated with their cloud PBXs and UCaaS solutions. And the vast majority of the UCaaS providers are integrating with Salesforce.com, with Dynamics, and um, the other CRM solutions. And it's been an incredible kind of enabler for businesses to handle customer service and customer interactions in a more efficient and contextually enhanced way. So I think it's businesses are demanding and something that's relatively widely, but relatively available out there.
okay. Yep, that makes sense. And yeah, and just to clarify, Bill, if you haven't gone down the Unite path yet, the Elevate, which is a private label version, we can discuss that. I know we've got a bunch of integrations with a lot of popular CRMs out there, as well as some open API integrations. So I'm pretty sure we could get you set up if you need something specific in that regard. And then part two of the question had to do with is if UCaaS is sold with underlying internet. I'm not sure if Elka, if you've seen that at all. I can speak quickly about Unite and the UCaaS that we offer. So it's not sold with internet as well. It's sold, and used on top of internet. But we do always include what's called our VoIP Scout network testing. So, and maybe this is along the lines of the question, to ensure the UCaaS solution works well, the cloud-based platform works well, the underlying internet of which it sits on top of needs to be reliable and work as well. So whenever we deploy our solutions, work with our partners to deploy solutions, it's complete with all the necessary network testing. It's not just that turn on a switch, see how it's working, but it runs a test over the course of a week or so to check for any latency patterns, things like that. So we have that covered in terms of standing this thing up and making sure it's on top of a reliable platform. But in terms of providing an internet service itself, Elka, have you seen that with UCaaS at all? I just haven't, so
Yes.
apologies if I'm not answering correctly, but
So the market is split in two groups, and yes, there are service providers, especially the telcos who own their own network and the connectivity piece. They are eager to bundle connectivity with their UCaaS solution, and um, sometimes that provides the telco with an opportunity to better manage the whole solution end to end, but it also limits the flexibility for customers. It makes it more difficult to let's say switch the connectivity provider while keeping the X. It comes with it's a lock-in to some extent. So it really depends what the customer wants and how the service provider is packaging, positioning, and promoting the solution.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So we just had a question come here from Rick. Says a bit off topic, but any plans for Intermedia to roll out SD-WAN services to pair with the Intermedia UCaaS solution? It's a good question, Rick. I'm not sure about that. I can check on a product roadmap, and we can get back to you directly on that. Let me just note that. Okay. So yeah, don't have that off the top of my head, but I'll take a look in our product roadmap stuff and get back to you. All right, we are coming up at the end of the presentation, end of the hour, end of the session. If there are any final questions, feel free to pop them in now, but want to be respectful of everyone's time. And thank you all for joining, taking the time out of the day. And Elka, thank you very much for the informative presentation.
Thanks, everybody.